Hello, and welcome to the Decking Awesome podcast. My name is Owen, and I'm joined by the awesome Kira and Brian.
Hello.
Hello.
Today we are talking about how to choose the art style for your board game. This is quite a big step in the creation of a board game and can be quite tricky to navigate. It's all part of the design process, and we're here to flesh it out a little bit. So I feel like the first step in choosing your art style is getting to grips with the finished mechanisms and theme for your game. Once the game gets to a point where the major mechanics and overall theme for the game is kind of done, then you should start to think about the art style. Brian, do you agree that the mechanics and themes should be tackled first before an art style?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Unless you are fortunate enough to be an artist or to have one working for you for free, art is a very expensive part of board game design. Like, you can sit there behind your laptop and you can design up a game and do 30 different prototypes, but if you have to pay someone to put nice artwork on your game, it's going to cost you a lot. And I know I've said it before on this podcast, pay your artists, people. They work hard, they do good work, give them money for it. But if any artists are looking for exposure, we will also pay. But no, if you jump in too quickly with artwork, it's lovely having a beautiful looking prototype, but if you end up making big changes to it, or the whole mechanics change, or the layout of the board changes, you're going to have to go back and pay for that artwork all over again. The artist doesn't care that you don't want it anymore. You're going to have to pay for it again. So it's better to make sure you're on or near the final prototype of your game before you start getting involved with it.
And it can be kind of disorienting for an artist to know that some of the artwork isn't going to be published as well.
Oh, I'm sure.
So
yeah.
if they spent lots and lots of time on a piece of artwork and they said, oh, actually, we don't need that card anymore, that can be really difficult.
I do think that it's important to have an idea, though, before, like, when you're talking about art styles, maybe getting an artist makes sense to invest that time in later in the game. But you do want to keep in mind the art style during the development process. Like, it should become apparent to you what market you're aiming for. When you found the fun thing you want to let people play, then you want to bring it together with a theme. And that means that you should have some idea of the art style that is going to join the theme and the images together.
Like, I do think when you're playtesting, you can playtest with anything. Like, if you want to take free images off the internet, if you want to just use clip art from Word, or you want to hand draw something yourself in Paint, great. People you're playtesting with will understand it's a prototype, it's an early stage game. It doesn't have to have beautiful fancy artwork on it. Again, if you're an artist and you can whip that stuff up in an hour or two, brilliant, fair play to you, go for it. But it's not essential. Like, half of my games, I know I can attest to anyway, are made in like Microsoft Excel. So that'll tell you the quality level of artwork that I put into the early prototypes. Now, as it goes on, it's nicer to have nicer looks to it, and maybe you're copying some images that are, free to use off the internet just for the purpose of prototyping, so people kind of have an idea of what it might look like towards the end. But early versions of the game do not need to look fancy, pretty, excellent. They can just have kind of nice, simple words. They don't even need fancy art at all.
Yeah, I think when you're talking about free artwork and using clip art and things for your prototypes, you should still be thinking about the art style. So even when you were talking about bumper bots, the free clip art you were choosing was also kind of the theme and the art style you were kind of going for. So you were saying it was done in Excel, but that's you're still kind of looking for that. It's a scientific thing. It's almost like it's a spaceship sci-fi kind of feel to it. So it's got the kind of modern aesthetic. So you're still going towards an art style. It's just not what the final prototype is going to be like, or even if the artwork mixes well, like color schemes and stuff like that. You're still picking the free artwork you want that represents the game, hopefully, a little bit better. So especially with Dice Summoners, we wanted to go for kind of mythological themes. So we also wanted it was going to be like monsters and stuff. So we wanted to have it look like a kind of a, how in encyclopedias and stuff like that, you'd see like a badger and it'd be drawn by a man, in the wild or something like that, when he's discovering badgers for the first time.
Discovering badgers and LSD.
So yeah, even in the time of picking free clip art, it's not just about Googling what object is, if you have like a spade or something like that in your free roam game, free exploration game, you're still trying to figure out what kind of aesthetic you want that art to be.
Yeah, I've often felt spreadsheets are very underrepresented in space games.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think that if you're keeping in mind the art style that you're going to go for from the start, it can be used to enhance the team. Like the art style for Dice Winners kind of had a gothic feel to it. So you knew the era you're kind of going for. You're kind of going for like old school. We went for a comic book style design on the images themselves. So we knew that what our vision of the game was is what we were trying to convey. So even though we didn't get the art illustrator in till much later in the process, we knew what we were aiming for because we thought it would enhance the team from our perspective. Like having a space modern design of some of the more modern games, we felt would take away from the game actually, because you're putting that on because it sells better or because it's what everyone else is doing right now, but you're not, it doesn't like feel like the game. It doesn't feel like it fits, or it's the skin of the game fits on top of it. So you want to make sure that like it encourages the like passion and feel that you were aiming for when you're designing the game in the prototype phases.
Yeah, yeah, because when it comes to a lot of sci-fi, space exploration games, they can look very crisp, very modern, and they can almost come up with like almost a professional feel to them, the art style. And if your game is less world building and it's more social interaction, you might want to focus less on the spaceships and more on the people. And so you want that kind of art style to represent the mechanics of the game as well as the theme of the game, so that when a person looks at the front of the box or looks at some of the cards or components, they can kind of feel that this is a socially friendly game, or if it's going to be a deep dive into number crunching. You want to kind of get that across.
I mean, how many times have you been at a convention or walking down the aisle of a board game shop and the picture on the front of the box has caught your eye? Like you've never heard of the game before, but you're going, oh, I really like that artwork style. That looks like other games I've played that I liked. Maybe I'll pick it up and see what it's like. You're buying very much off the artwork. And I know you're not supposed to judge a book by its cover, but judging a board game by its cover, very appropriate.
Yeah. Like if Blood Rage was called Valhalla, Mountain, I don't think I would get it, because Blood Rage is exactly what I'm looking for in a board game.
That's certainly how I feel when I lose by 1 point.
Yeah, definitely. So that kind of feel, and then obviously Blood Rage had that art style across the whole game. It was very kind of splashes of color, almost anger. So it's very competitive.
Dark as well, yeah. To know that the end of the world is coming and we should all just pretty much prepare and then kill off people and then revive them.
Yeah. But I will say, conversely as well, even if you have an idea in your head at the start of what the game should look like, it's a great idea to kind of stick with it, but don't be stuck with it. Feel free to adapt what you're imagining as you go on. Like sometimes the theme will change or the mechanics will adapt. Like even Bumper Bots is now about, building colonies on Titan, but the first version of it was trying to build killer robots to attack other scientists. So that was kind of based in a factory originally. It was the artwork style I had in my head, but now I'm trying to figure out what Titan looks like. What does space look like from Titan? Black. Still black. Fun fact.
Yeah. And not just the art style of like cards and the front of the box, but you also have to worry about like, the board layout, if you want it just to be a square or do you want it to be a cool shape. Some people have like trees, Everdale has the trees, and you also have minis like in Blood Rage. Obviously they wanted the minis to look aggressive and, attacky, whereas they wouldn't look so good if they were all just sitting on a bench. So yeah, those kind of aspects should be thought about. So art style kind of approaches to everything,
And I think iconography then kind of comes in a little bit in that you should make sure that the iconography and the art style don't clash. But your iconography is all about making something clear. So it's not the same as the design of the board game itself. So your illustrations, they really bring your game to life. The iconography just means people can actually play it. So our iconography was very like two-dimensional, flat, and clear. So you looked at an icon and you could see what that icon meant on any different media, on the box, on the manual, on the cards. But just because that flat iconography is what we use for the icons, doesn't mean that our game had to have that same design. You could expand it out to the illustrations to bring in the team.
Yep, I totally agree with that. And then when you're coming into trying to figure out what you're going to actually pick as your art style, there's going to be a lot of research. And so, there's lots of different media out there, from comic book to computer games, to find out what you like, understand why certain art styles are so popular among certain types of board games, such as like, sci-fi, lots of kind of blues and modern chevrons. I'm sure there's other parts of it as well. Kira, how do you research into different art styles?
So I take a few different approaches to it. I definitely look at other games in the genre that the game is being made in. I think that can really help you get a baseline for what's expected. The games, you can look at maybe 10 games in a genre and then go, well, these are the ones that I'm most drawn to. So they're probably the elements that I want to take away. Just based on box covers more than anything else, before you even go into the deep, does it match anything that I'm trying to do? And then even then, you kind of want to make sure that the audience is considered. So like, even if, let's say, escape room games for Save Snowball, they can be quite dark because they're about escaping some sort of questionable situation. And a lot of like even Exit and things like that have quite dark boxes. They have, a darkened tomb, or it's all very dark. Dark Polar Station, dark dark maze. It's all very dark. And while I like that and I like the crisp elements of it, I think that what I went for was something brighter, because the research for the part of the market that I wanted was different to quite the part that Exit wanted, or the people they wanted to attract with their thing. So I guess it's looking around at a lot of things and then looking at just generally escape rooms and people who do escape room reviews and websites on the internet, and just kind of immersing yourself in all sorts of that art style, I think, and anything to do with the genre.
Yeah, so market, community, current board games out there. Yeah, a lot of great points to touch on. Brian, do you have any?
Yeah, I feel like ones that are a bit overlooked as well are the likes of comic book conventions and board game conventions and stuff like that as well. Go have a wander around. There's nearly always an artist alley or just an entirely dedicated floor of artists, which are brilliant. There's people there selling their own artwork, people doing their own styles, everything from, cute little fairies to demonic monsters and stuff like that. Everyone will have their own kind of art style that they like to do. And sometimes it's good to just walk around and go, oh, actually that's exactly what I had in my head. That'd work really well in my game. Go up and have a chat with them, because a lot of artists will be quite willing to work on a board game if you approach them and offer them money. This need to eat that everyone has. But if you go up and you say, look, I'm working on a board game. I really like your style. Would you mind if I got in touch with you? Maybe talked out some ideas and stuff like that. Maybe they go, oh, look, sorry, my commissions are full. Oh, well, but, maybe it works out really well. As Kira was saying, do have a look online or look in board game shops at games that are kind of similar in genre to your own, and see, is there a kind of recurring style? Is there a recurring theme across certain ones? And, maybe you don't want to stray too far from it. You want to attract in the same kind of people who will play those games, but you can still put your own unique element, your own unique spin on it.
Yeah, I think there's awesome sites online. Like there's in Reddit, there's a place called Hungry Artists, which is great, and it just shows a lot of people who are absolutely incredible at art and just willing to do a couple of commissions. Usually for people doing portraits and stuff like that. But yeah, I've never thought there's no really such thing as board game artists. Obviously, there is artists that do board games before and have that kind of reputation, but any of them will do. They're all great, and they have worked with lots of different companies on lots of different projects before. And if you know what you're doing, you can definitely help them out, and there shouldn't be any problems at all. Obviously, there's a couple of different ways of dealing with artists, but we have another podcast on working with artists, which you should definitely check it out. I'm a fan of researching into the cultural media of the day, pretty much. So not just board games, but like TV shows and comic books and anything like that, where people are even adverts on online places. What kind of styles are people using? Because when Kira said community of people, so like if you're dealing with like space age stuff, is there a cool space program that they're playing? If Assassin's Creed Valhalla, if Norse is getting really popular right now, what kind of style aesthetic was Assassin's Creed using that made them that fits into the team really well? Those kind of aspects. Now, you shouldn't be copying on anybody. Obviously, you should still come up with your own aspect. But why does Assassin's Creed Valhalla have that art style for that gameplay and those mechanics and that team? And why does it work so well? Or does it work really well? Or what would you change?
And I think that once you have got that idea, like when you're doing your research into different art styles, find out the name of the art style. Because if you want to check Instagram tags for that name, or fan art websites, or like deviant art, or hire an illustrator, you're gonna want to look to find for the actual person that you're looking for. You're going to want to have the tags you need to search for. So while you're looking at like TV shows and different things, maybe find out who the illustrator or whoever designed that look and feel, and get their name and what they specialize in. And then you can kind of use the process of elimination to figure out, actually, what's this specific art style that I'm looking for, that I now need to go Google local artists that do that specific art style.
And know that some art styles are easier to do than others. Like, when you do digital paintings, some people are still traditional artists, and they might, so if someone's working on an oil canvas painting for your front of the game box, know that change is going to cost a lot more than the guy that's using digital art. But yeah, that should just be kept in the back of the mind. I still think you should pick whatever you think works best, or whatever artist you think works, because a better working together aspect will help you come up with the best art. So for me, it feels like the balance between being boldly unique and finding a tried and true art style is kind of really important. So Brian, how do you feel about this balance?
Oh, don't even get me started. This is absolutely one of the hardest bits of choosing an art style, because you want your game to stand out. You want it to pop. You want it to look really well, but you also don't want to deviate too far from, what the other type of games in your genre are, because ideally, as I said, you want players who play games in that genre. You want them to kind of walk along and go, oh, that's the style I like. I'll pick it up and see what it's like. But you want it to be unique, so you don't want it to be derivative of the other games that are out there. How do you find that? How do you do it? Nightmare. Absolute nightmare. I, honest to God, don't know how artists do it. Fair play to all of it. If we have any creative people listening to us, thank you. I, honest to God, do not know how you do it. But yeah, like, reach out and talk to, other game designers and stuff like that. If you know any locally, there's usually a local group somewhere nearby, or check out Facebook, have a chat with people, find out, you've got your idea, you've got your theme online. Talk to people and see, does this work? Does it not work? It's really a hard, it's a tightrope act to walk to have a game look unique and different, but also the exact same as all the other games.
And it can apply in different ways as well. Like I said, with the minis and the design, as well as like the artwork on a card, you so many different aspects. You can be unique and bold in one of them, or multiple of them, and then stay the same in others. So the balance isn't just in one specific part of your game, whether it's the front of the box, or like maybe you want the front of the box to be as traditional as possible. Just shows the name, some of your components, nothing flashy, nothing crazy, and then you can have some crazy stuff inside. Yeah. What do you think, Kira?
I think the reason why we're saying don't go too over the top on this is you just don't want to alienate people. Your customers need to be able to engage with your product, and I think that the thing we're trying to stop is them feeling overwhelmed by really inconsistent themes or images based on the genre that they're looking for. So they want to be able to instead relate to them. So they want to have some sort of grounding. So that's why it's important to try and find this balance, which is a really hard balance to find. I think that you just have to be careful to not push away a genre. For something like Garden of Bees, our artwork was really eye-catching, and but it actually appealed to much younger groups than we had expected. And I think it's because of the really, really bright colours and stuff that are associated with kids' games. I think even though we ourselves thought we enjoy it on a night of board game play, there's something about the artwork that just drove kids to be super attracted to the bright colours and the little tokens, and which is really cool. But you want to make sure that that's what you plan on doing. So you could think, oh yeah, there's all the space games are just so dark. They're all like, oh, they're kind of all dull colors and stuff. I want a really bright and bubbly one, and that'd be great if you're doing like a comedic space game, or like Munchkin, where you have like the brightest blue for the space, even though space itself is black. There's that balance, but Munchkin is for a different audience to Terraforming Mars, which is quite a dark one. So there's a good part of being unique, but there's also like, oh, they expect it to be comedic because you have these bright, bubbly colors, and you want to kind of be careful that you're not really confusing your audience.
Yeah, like no one picks up a game of Munchkin going, this is definitely a heavy strategy game. I'll be at the table for 8 or 10 hours just, getting halfway through this. You pick it up and it looks like what it is. It's a fun, light, quirky little game. There's lots of little laughs in it, and you're going to have fun. You're going to enjoy it. Like, you're not going to gather your friends who enjoy war strategy games around the table and go, I've got a new one for you, lads. You're going to take it to a group that wants like a quick, fun little pickup game.
Yeah. The expectations from people on what the game is and the mechanics are very important. Some of my favorite games with the mechanics, I would definitely pick Dice Summoners. I think it matches the expectations and then also mixes in what the other kind of, trading card game, even though Dice Summoners is a trading card game, that's kind of the place it sits into. It fits into that genre perfectly. The customers expect what they want, but it also has that unique style that we don't see at all. And any of these ones, and the one that we really wanted this. So really happy with that. Some of the other ones mentioned Blood Rage already. It's gritty, it's realistic, and the miniatures just ensure players are focused on the combat aspects of the game. It works very well together. Does anybody else have any good examples that they want to talk about?
I think so. Arboretum, I do think is I have the collector's edition of Arboretum, which is sparklier than the normal edition. But that is a really interesting one because they've gone for trees. For anyone who doesn't know what an arboretum, it's like a tree place where trees live. I actually don't know. I don't know.
But it's not a forest.
It's not a forest.
It's a place where they grow trees.
They grow trees. But they have gone for quite a realistic art style, but it's quite a light-hearted game. It's not a long game. And they kind of did that by bringing in like kind of floral backgrounds and things, even though they have actual pictures of quite realistic looking trees. So you'd think that would take away from the game, because if you have a realistic looking tree, the games with more realistic looking illustrations tend to be heavier games. So they counteract that with the very floral backgrounds that they put on and the decorative numbers that they had that really makes you feel more at ease, and you don't expect a longer game because of those elements.
Yeah, I love Arboretum. It's the designs on it, especially in the front of the box where it has that almost like a picture frame kind of aspect to it, really adds to it. And when you finish a game of Arboretum and all the cards are laid out, I really love that each tree takes up the entire card space and it almost looks like a forest and has these beautiful colors that kind of approach it. Yeah, Arboretum's a good one.
I find like I know Kieran mentioned the kind of space ones, but the likes of Roll for the Galaxy and stuff like that, where they've got the kind of dark theme, the dark colors, and then you've got the kind of brighter planets. You do feel like you're in space, like you're exploring these planets. You're shipping, you're in and out and everything else, but the whole dark theme sky matches, because like if you were playing on like brightly colored green tableaus, you'd be going, it's not really space, is it? I mean, I feel like we're just building little sand planets in our garden. But like then you've got games, if you pick up anything like Castles of Burgundy, Lords of Waterdeep, Agricola, I actually don't know how you pronounce that. Stone Age, games like that have a kind of almost oil painting design to them. When you pick them up, you look at them and go, this is a Euro game. So they've got a theme. There's going to be like a bit of long-term strategies. There's going to be a bit short back and forth with points, and ultimately there'll be all points added at the end. So you don't really know who's winning until the final game, just like a Euro game. But you pick it up and you know what it is. You know what to expect. You know what you're going to get with the game. I feel like games like that have either by deliberative cooperative effort, they've really leaned into that kind of style, and it works. It works probably because we all just know it.
I've seen so many Euro games where it's just a guy on the front and he's doing something, where it's like plowing a field or making a dress. And I know just by the art style that I have to be that man for the next 4 hours, and it's going to be a number crunching Euro game.
Yeah, we'll delve into Owen's hatred of Euro games.
I like Euro games. It's just it just requires a different attitude that I don't have. So another thing I love is Sushi Go. I think the cartoony sushi style with the animated eyes, I think that really just tells people what your kind of game you're going to get. If you see some sushi with some cartoony eyes, it's going to be a cute, friendly game. You see the number of players in the front of the box and you're like, this is great. I'll just pick this up. I'll have this, at the start, or have a few friends over, whatever. maybe next year.
We're allowed to have friends.
Sigh.
Yeah, but yeah, I think that's great. Yeah, so Brendan Purchase did the artwork for Dice Numbers. He did a fantastic job. I think working with your artist is super important, and making sure that the art style is kind of agreed, and everybody kind of communicating that with the artist, pretty tricky. But I think we did a great job. There's going to be a lot of great points in this whole thing, but the more research you do, one thing I found out recently is doing mood boards, which is a cool way of doing it. You just take a load of artwork from, a TV show here, comic book there, just to get what you want. So like, you take Bumper Bots, kind of a whole bunch of sci-fi stuff that you want, that you like, maybe Roll for the Galaxy, put it on a mood board, give it to the artist, and the artist says, yeah, I kind of get what you're talking about.
Or he might just go, what the hell is this? How do you know where I live?
Because, this whole thing is very emotional. When it comes to art and stuff like that, it's not, you can't describe it in the way you can describe a Ford Fiesta 1997,
Yeah.
It's a little bit difficult.
And it's theme as well. You're thinking fantasy or an imagination. I know, so for example, Scrabble actually just has the pieces on it. And that's probably the simplest style you could possibly do, is go to the artist. Well, my game is made of squares of letters, and can you just make that look nice? And that's easy to communicate to the artist, and it results in straightforward images. But what a lot of games, the much more advanced games, or the games that we're really talking about in the board game genre, they need a theme, and they need, like I said, you need the man farming on the front of the box, or the army that's attacking somebody, or it's more important to convey the theme, if there is a theme, than it is to just say, well, these are the components that are in the box. You can put that on the back, or you can put that in the rule book. You want to immerse them as quick as possible in the 10 seconds you have while they glance over the box. So I think the centerpiece is your board game or art styles is your front cover, and then wherever else you can put it in is great to make it feel more like the theme.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And even when you said that, there's still that aspect that the artist that does work on it still has that ability to create something new, create something unique, add their own flair, add their own style. So your board games are always going to be slightly different than what you might have imagined. And there's always that kind of opportunity to create something new. But yeah, artists would definitely need a bit more than just, I just want this to look nice, like Kira says.
Yeah, science, Go.
Heard that right.
But playtesting is an important thing for figuring out art style. I like one of the things I like is multiple art styles with different audiences can help determine what art style works well or coherent in a board game, and can also help understanding rules and how aggressive or cooperative players are. So you have a board game and you have a lot of clip art, try different artwork, and then release those as prototypes, try them out with different people, see how it goes. Brian, do you think designers can effectively playtest their art style ideas to get feedback from playtesters?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. You can do it in a couple of different ways. As you said, you can just print out several different copies of the game and say to people, what do you like, what works, what doesn't. In this age of social media, like it or hate it, there's a few great options out there where, I'm following a couple of different groups online of people who, they have new games up and coming, and they're going, all right, well, this is the board. Here was the 2 color schemes I'd tried. Which do you like? Which do you prefer? And then going, oh, well, here's the numbering style. Here's the lettering style. Here's some of the little miniatures I planned for the game. Do you think they work? Do you think they're excessive? And it was actually some of them are very clever, because not only are people, getting involved and giving good feedback, but people feel like they're contributing to the game. It makes them feel like they're part of it. So you're building your audience, you're getting your background there, and you have people giving you good feedback, and also people who are going, oh, well, now that I've helped out, I definitely want to get this game when it comes out. So it's a very good way to do it. But again, have your core of the game solid before you start putting a lot of artwork on it, because if you ask a lot of people which do they prefer and they give you all their feedback, and then you come back a week later and go, I changed this whole game, we're back to square one, people are going to get bored and fed up. But it's a good idea to go, well, here's 2 art styles I liked, which do you like? Don't hammer them with 75 different color schemes, but put up a couple of the ones that, maybe you've worked with your artist that you really like, and go, which one appeals to you guys? Do you like it? Do you not like it? And it actually, even as I was kind of following them just to just out of curiosity about the game more than anything else. But now I'm like, oh yeah, I can't believe that idiot liked the purple. The blue looks way better. And I'm like, I definitely have to get it to make sure it comes out in blue.
It can be tricky if all the community in that kind of thing, like if it is Reddit or something like that, says the purple one is better, and you think it's the blue. You shouldn't have given them the choice in the first place, but that could be even worse.
Don't give them too much choice.
Kira, any tips?
Yeah, so definitely refine your choices. Pick ones that you could definitely get behind. It can be hard because you can't commission like 10 different artists to draw a card for you in each of their different styles. So if you can, I think it's about cultivating a good relationship with your community and then giving them a piece of the artwork that you want to use in the final design that isn't quite what you're going to use, like something you've taken off maybe the artist's portfolio or you've found somewhere, and trying to fit it in so that they could maybe in some way visualize what it's going to look like in the game. So like you have to be kind of reasonable with your resources if you're especially a small board game company, where you can't just have 10 artists on hand that you could just commission for one day each or whatever. You have to find a way to balance that. So do what you can with the resources that you have, and do post on forums. And if you have a mailing list, maybe it's a good idea to, I think that one of our pieces was the timing wise, we didn't want to get the artists involved too soon, but also because it was so close to the Kickstarter that we got the artists involved, it just meant that there was a limited amount of time on getting feedback and changes and things like that. So you do have to be aware of timing. If you promised on Kickstarter you were going to produce a game in a certain time, then maybe do market research before you get to that point, or get the community engagement before that point. If you can, try a portion of your game or some small amount of gameplay and try and playtest that with a particular art style that you want to try out. It's a lot of work, but it's worth it, because once you have the art style locked in, you're stuck with that for the rest of the journey. So don't take the decision lightly.
Yeah, and there are ways of making sure that you only do part of a thing. So like artists can do the sketch only of the artwork instead of the whole thing. So if you're thinking of a front of a box, instead of asking them just to do the whole thing, you can get like a couple of sketches of different ideas, and you can get the community involved. And then this whole process takes the game way longer. So you're gonna be pushing Kickstarter at like 6 months, 8 months, which can be annoying. But I think if you want to get the community involved, you want to get the artwork done, I think it's a good idea. So, but at the end of the day, it is up to the game designer to choose the art style that they think will match and work well. Something that mixes with the mechanics and teams effectively, something you've researched and know where this style is usually used, and something that playtests really well with people. That pretty much wraps it up for choosing an art style. What sort of art styles do you love? And which best complement certain mechanics? Comment on our social media to tell us. If you enjoyed it, share it. We've been decking out some games. Thanks for listening. See ya.
See ya.
Bye.